Welcome back to the Suck Less Tomorrow podcast. I'm your host, Carlton Glassford. Here at the Suck Less Tomorrow podcast, we emphasize progress over perfection. The movement is about getting away from the idea of the perfect teacher or that every lesson has to go perfectly. The goal here is that you improve incrementally and you suck less tomorrow. Joining me on this episode is Nicole Parks. You may know her as TeachWithMrsParks on Instagram and TikTok. This episode is all about classroom management. We're going to talk about the struggles that teachers have, the reasons behind student misbehaviors, and a few times we fell flat on our faces. So go ahead and hit that follow button and enjoy the show.
Teaching is hard, the classroom's a grind. We try our best, take it one day at a time. We aren't perfect, but that's all right. We'll all suck less tomorrow.
You're listening to the Suck Less Tomorrow podcast. I'm your host, Carlton Glassford. Joining me today is Nicole Parks, educator, classroom management guru. You may know her as Teach with Mrs. Parks at Instagram and TikTok. Nicole, welcome to the program. Tell us about yourself.
Hi, thank you for having me. So I'm Nicole Parks, the creator behind Teach with Mrs. Parks. I am a mom, I am a wife, and those are my first big hats. And I am passionate about helping teachers. I discovered just a few years ago that the superpower that I naturally kind of organically had with students came from my pretty tough childhood and just having a different perspective on how adults should treat children from my own personal experience and who I decided to be as soon as I became an educator. And I started to realize that not a lot of folks were like me. And I didn't really have initially in the beginning of my career much influence with my colleagues or other educators, but slowly as my career has evolved, I've started to, for the last 5 years, been a mentor and coach to other teachers just from my district, either through induction while teachers are getting their credentials cleared, or like more recently, our school's doing what they're calling an AOL program, acceleration of learning, for people who have some capacity in that they've worked with kids. They might have been credentialed in another state and transferred over, and they didn't get their ELD CLAT or whatever it's called,
Yeah.
certification, or maybe they have to take an extra course, or maybe they were an instructional assistant. Some districts call them paraprofessionals, and then they've transitioned to teaching. So they have some experience working with students, but now they're in their program. They're an intern or something. So been focusing on helping those folks the last couple of years. And then, of course, my own program that I'm coaching teachers who seek me out through social media. And what flipped for me kind of through this trajectory of my career was, first, I didn't want to leave the classroom. I wanted to stay in the classroom for as long as I could because, the whole Rita Pearson, every student deserves a champion. And absolutely, I needed a champion and I didn't have one. One of my most dreaded questions is like, who's your favorite, like most memorable teacher or your favorite teacher who made a difference in your life? And I couldn't say one. I had a few teachers who just enjoyed learning in their classroom. They made a safe space, but I wouldn't say somebody really went out of their way to care about me. And I don't say that for pity, but it just was something that I kept in my mind. Like, there are not a lot of adults who really are going out of their way to care about those kids. And I was an internalized sort of student. I kept a lot of things closed to my chest. On the outside, nobody knew what I was going through, but on the inside, complete turmoil. So kept that in my noggin. And I was like, I want to keep working with kids. I know that the power that I have to give far extends beyond like just this classroom. So I want to teach as many kids as possible. And then I realized I can help more kids by the more adults I help. And the more adults I can help, they can help other adults. And it can just become this huge movement. So it inspired me to create my mentorship program, my coaching program, where I'm providing classroom management support to other educators, like I said, the ones that seek me out. I continue to work with my district and they know exactly what type of teacher to give me, teachers who are struggling with classroom management, secondary folks, because, not everybody has that. There's a mindset, I think, that you must have to be able to manage students at that grade level without being too permissive or too authoritative. And so I'll kind of say that now, kind of looking back, looking at my trajectory, unpacking my transformation, if you will, I used to tell my students way back when I first started teaching, I was a CTE culinary arts teacher, and all you had to have was industry experience. Okay. I was an instructional assistant before that. And I remember telling my students my first year teaching. And so I was on to a trajectory I didn't even know I was on yet. But I used to tell them, and I told them every year at the start of the year and multiple times throughout the year, but especially at the start, and said, I'm going to teach you a lot of really cool things this year. You're going to learn a lot of really cool stuff. Yes, you're going to get to eat really good food because they cared about that.
Yeah.
But the most important thing I'm going to do, the most important thing that we're going to accomplish in this room is not going to be educational.
Yeah.
I will measure my success not by what you remember from my class, but the person you become after my class. And if I can see you 10 years from now and you're just a phenomenal human, vibing and thriving and just living life to the fullest, I don't care what it is you're doing vocationally, but you are a good human, I've done my job.
Yeah, for sure.
Everything else is secondary.
Yeah. It's funny. Yeah. We go back and forth a lot with when I talk to people, kind of like, what is the purpose of school? And I think we all have every teacher brings a different purpose for
Mhm.
what it is. Some teachers are like, I'm here to teach you algebra. And some of us are like, I'm here to teach you how to be a human. All right.
Yeah.
You mentioned this, you mentioned coaching teachers and working with teachers and your secret power, but here's the big question. Why do you think classroom management is so difficult? And I'm going to preface that with, if anyone here has watched any of my classroom management was abysmal my first year teaching. I don't know if you've seen any of those videos, but I kicked out like a kid a day.
Oh, man.
My principal pulled me into his office in December and like showed me this graph where he's like, you've kicked out more students than anyone in the school by a lot. Like second place was like 40 below me. And so it took
Yeah.
me a long time to get into classroom management. I feel like I'm all right with it now. I've read Teaching with Love and Logic a bunch of times and that's helped. But why is classroom management so difficult?
So, okay, I am so intrigued by that question that it is a part of the reason why I've started a doctoral journey.
Yeah.
Because I wanna know. I studied psychology because I wanted to learn why the adults were so horrible to me as a child. I'm a very curiosity-driven person. I'm still unpacking that. There's a part of me that believes that it's a generational perception.
Mm-hmm.
There's individuals who are in the classroom who are like, "Well, when I was in school, we did X, Y, and Z. And so that worked for us, so we kinda keep doing that." That's one thing I think that makes it hard is
Yeah, I'd
that
agree with that.
yeah, there's a generational disconnect. I think another one is kind of along that same thread in that the disconnect happens in that they don't understand children. And it maybe is possibly linked to they didn't understand themselves as a child. I'm in an elementary school now and I just see these adults. First of all, let me preface this by I went from a secondary site. We're a Title I district. Our whole district's Title
Yeah.
I. I went to a secondary site where, we were called the fight school for a really long time by the community because we just had fights all the time. This is part of that list that my principal gave me.
Mm-hmm.
I went from that to now we're at a elementary school and they call eloping a student leaving without permission. The student
Mm-hmm.
just walked out of class and they're calling that eloping. And I'm like, "Ooh." From where I'm from, eloping is they bolted. They're possibly on a fence taking off right now. You're stressing me out, bro. So I think there's a bit of like, they just forget like they're children. And even I had this challenge with adults in secondary, like this is still a 16-year-old child. They are not 36, 46. They don't get it like we get it.
Mm-hmm.
They're kids. Have some empathy. Ask questions before you make assumptions, right? So I think that disconnect is big, but I also think some people are just afraid of the big
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
Kids in today's society, kids I would say since the moment I started teaching and it's kind of gotten like stronger till now, they have big energy. And my clients have told me that scares them. When the students yell, when the students have this flamboyant, even if they're just being like class clown type of behavior, they're being this really flamboyant energy, they shut down. Their sympathetic nervous system's like, uh-oh, stranger dangers, gotta hide, or they just simply shut down. And so it's actually led me to share more about emotional regulation in my content and really kind of give that coaching to my clients because that's part of it. You're not
Mm-hmm.
emotionally regulated, and that's why you're struggling with classroom management. They're
Yeah.
scaring you. They're controlling you.
So I think there's a couple, I'm going to add a few things. I think movies might be to blame. Like we watch
Mm.
these movies where like there's these teachers that go in and the kids are just like Dead Poet Society type stuff
Yeah.
where like the kids are like, oh, captain, my captain or whatever. And like and the teachers who go in thinking like, it's going to be like that. And kids are going to stand
Yeah.
on their desks and clap for me. And it's like, nope,
Yeah.
that's not going to be true. I'd add that. But also
Yeah.
what I talk about in the book, the first thing I say in my classroom management chapter is that there's the two things you need to know is that like basically is like is that you can only control yourself in the classroom. And I feel like teachers are like, I'm going to make this kid. You can't make a kid do anything,
Mm-mm.
right? And I think I saw one of your videos where you kind of say the same thing I say. Like classroom management is it's a form of like manipulation. We are tricking children to do. It's like that comedy bit from the guy who we won't mention because he'd made some bad choices, but where he's like, do the kids want to know math? And it's like, no, they don't want to know math. Like, but you got to get them to know math. And
Mhm.
so I would say that. And then I want to see what your thoughts are on this. I think teachers have a hard time with this. And if you're listening and you're struggling with classroom management, I'm not trying to call you out, but I've worked with teachers who will look at their classroom that's out of control and they will blame the students. And then they'll be like, well, they behave in so-and-so's class. And then you're like, okay, so what's the variable between these two classrooms, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, you're the variable. And I don't know what are your thoughts on that? Have you had to have that talk with the teacher where they're like, I don't know why they won't listen. And it's like,
Yeah. So
well, I
through
got some news.
through all of my own personal coaching,
Yeah.
right? Like the district, as when you're an instructional coach, you're a teacher coach, they put you through a series of coaching.
Hmm.
And it all goes back to leading with questions, right? So
Yeah.
I am as a coach and being trained to not solve your problem, but to help guide you to you solving your problem by asking
Yeah.
strategic questions. Hello, that is a classroom management strategy right
Exactly.
there. Just tapping their table with the ruler 100 million times and it's driving you crazy and the other 5 kids that sit near them crazy. Ask questions. Hey, can I help you? What do you need? Anyways, so I see that, but I can't say that. I can't say you're the problem.
Yes.
They don't think anything's wrong with them. And that's okay. Like I try to first say like you're not a bad teacher. I'm not saying you're bad.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is you're lacking a skill.
Yes.
So when I am talking directly to them, that's how I try to phrase it because I'm not judging them. I'm not saying you're so horrible and you should
Hmm.
just get out of education. No, 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 no. I'm saying, when I first started learning how to play softball, I sucked. I
Yeah.
sucked, but I cared enough about learning how to play softball that I kept practicing and asking questions and getting better. I recognized I sucked. I had some self-reflection. I can't hit the damn ball. I'm not catching it. It almost hit my head. How do I fix that? And I went and got better. I went and actively sought out steps to get better.
Mhm.
Not everybody has that motivation or that ability to be self-reflective. It feels scary, it feels uncomfortable. They're letting that negative mindset tell them they're way worse than they really are. And so it's keeping them away from getting the help they need. So that's why I flipped what I've said. But now when I see that it is the teacher who is the challenge, the disconnect in the classroom or in their classroom, I'll say that. I'll ask them like, have you tried this other thing? Or I'll tell them like, let's try a little science experiment. For the next week, try this thing instead of what you've been
Hmm.
doing. See if that works. How does that feel? And then they'll try it and they'll say, well, actually, whatever, right? They'll give me some
Yeah.
reflection. I have one teacher and often I get a lot of teachers who are too permissive. They shut down. They don't know how to respond to loud behavior. And I'll tell them like you can get stern without being mean. You can deepen your voice, slow down how you're speaking, still be kind. You can still say, hey, honey, this is the third time I've actually asked you to take out your AirPods, and now I'm going to need you to put it on my
Hmm.
desk sternly and still be kind. And so
Yeah.
so those are things I'll say to them, like I'll pull out what it is that they're afraid of or what they might have done that kind of created the chaos for them. And very gently, like say, well, how do you think the student might have reacted had you done this differently? What might have happened if you would have given a choice? Or I'll call out the root cause, right? Like the function of the behavior. It sounds like the student is seeking your attention. That
Yeah.
sounds like adult seeking its behavior. What could you do to manipulate your attention to them in a positive way? Could we ignore when they're doing this little tiny thing? And then the minute they turn it around, give them the attention, come over, talk to them. And so, it's just strategic questioning,
Yeah.
delicately touching on things. But I will say the people in my space, like the people who are paying me to coach them, people that I'm getting paid to coach at the district, I can be a little more honest. Obviously, you're not going to hurt people's feelings, but I can be a little more honest and call it out because that's what they're there for. They want that.
I'm not trying to, if anyone is listening, or which I hope a bunch of you are, like, I'm not trying to poo-poo anyone. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to like be direct. I look at it sort of like I've been self-reflective. I've always, and I think it's like, we want students to be self-reflective. We got to practice what we preach,
Yep.
but if I'm trying to make my mom's meatloaf and it doesn't come out right and I follow the recipe, like,
Something went wrong.
something went wrong, Tell me how you handled this situation. I'm going to pivot here a little bit of what I told you we were going to talk about. one of the issues when I don't know, one of my concerns when I'm coaching teachers, and this was something I did couldn't I struggled with my first year teaching, was taking things personally. And I
Mhm.
think that's one of the biggest barriers to strong classroom management is staying calm, realizing the person you're talking to is a child and making childish decisions, and that you are an adult, and just like not taking it personal. I had a student just email me and call me a baby and was like upset with me, but like I'm like they're 15 years old. It is what it is. How do you try to help teachers sort of compartmentalize? Like the way I do it is just real quick is like I wear a
Yeah.
tie every day. So then it's like I feel like I'm dressing up like I'm Mr. Glassford when I'm wearing my
Yeah.
tie. And then when I take my tie off and go home, now I'm Carlton. And
Yeah.
those are Mr. Glassford's problems. And anyway,
That's very smart.
how do you do it, and how do you try to help people do it?
So there's a few things, and I'll tell you where I'm at now because I used to not be here. Now, when I hear teachers, I hear an inkling of a teacher taking something personal. I'll remind them to regulate their nervous system.
Mhm.
What did you do I'll ask them directly. I have a teacher who teaches third grade who's in my program. And, I have third graders that I work with too right now. And let me tell you what, they're just like freshmen. And so, not as much profanity, but just like freshmen.
I
So
hope not.
I tell her, like, before you respond to that, what did you do to regulate your nervous system?
Mhm.
Before you said something to the student, because you have 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You do not have to respond right then and there.
Yeah.
And another strategy I know I tell them when you feel completely activated, because we all do, there will
Mhm.
come a time, many times, probably multiple times in a day, where a student does something and your blood pressure spikes through the roof and you're about to blow your lid. And I'll tell them in that moment, that is the moment to say nothing and go look at the kids who are doing the thing you want them to be doing so that
Oh,
you can regulate, tell your brain, I'm safe. There's no big bear chasing after me right now.
yeah.
I am all right. Thank you so much for completing the note taking activity right now. I really appreciate that. And I like how you are doing the activity too. It looks like you're already done. Wonderful, fantastic. Makes my heart so happy. Say that to 5 kids. Then you're in a better regulated state. You're now looking for positives. The one kid who spiked your blood pressure is not going to derail your day. Do not give them that power. And they're not trying to do that either. Maybe in some cases they are, but most cases they're not. Then now that you're calm and they see that you're complimenting everybody else, when you
Mhm.
come over, they're not going to battle up because they think you're going to say something. They think you might be complimenting them.
Yeah.
So you're coming over and you, with your very polite, kind, professional voice, hey, what's going on over here?
Yeah.
This is
What
giving not the note taking activity.
Yeah.
What should we be doing? And then you're feeling better. So I start with emotionally regulate first. And if they don't
Mhm.
know how, I give them that one strategy. Just do that. If you've had a crap day, high school teachers, you have 6 to 7 periods per day. And let's say half of them are just completely dysregulated and they were driving you bonkers. And of course, it's always the end of the day.
Yes.
Before you call home for those couple of turkeys that were acting a little crazy, call 5 parents and tell them good things about their kids. And it's,
That's
just 5 or emails if you're going to email, because I know
yeah.
high school teachers don't want to call. Okay, email. Email 5 parents first, positive things, because then it puts you back in a regulated state to effectively communicate the facts of the other student, because some parents are going to read that as my kid is bad,
Mhm.
you don't care about my kid, whatever, and that's not what you're saying. Hey, and I also coach them to always end those type of conversations with thank you for your partnership.
Yeah.
We're a partnership. It takes a village. I'm not saying you know all the secret ingredients to how to make your student shine like like a light bulb, but I am also saying I don't. So maybe 2 brains together can help us figure that out. But so rule number 1, how do I deal with it in the moment? Regulate.
I love that, especially the 5 sending out the positives first, because
Mhm,
I send out positive emails a lot, and I also sometimes have to send the not so positive emails home.
mhm.
But I could see myself sending out 5 positive emails and then getting to, like, the reprimand and just being like, "You know what? It's not
It's not
worth
even
it.
that big of a deal
Not
now.
even that big of a deal now." Like, I'm in such a good place because I just compliment all these kids and made their
Yeah.
days. Like, I really try to send positive emails home on Friday, and, like, hopefully the kid has a great weekend after that, you know?
Mhm. That's it.
Another thing for taking it personal vein, have you noticed, and how do you help them do this, which is to stop micromanaging every little disruption? Because I feel like that's what really throws off some teachers' lessons where they're trying to be like, oh, that kid's talking, that's doing this, da 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 da.
Mhm.
And what I loved about the TAP rubric, and I do mention this in the book, maybe not by name, but to get a 5 on classroom management or managing student behavior, it said ignores inconsequential behaviors. And so to
Mm,
move up the ladder, you had to be observed not yelling at every little thing. So like
yeah.
what's your advice on that, and or how do you coach on that? Like knowing, when that is.
It's not one that comes up often because the people in my spaces are generally dealing with some pretty massive stuff.
Okay.
That's, I guess, what draws them to that container. But I would say that the educators for my district, I have had some teachers who I've had to, when you're doing induction, you have to go in the classroom, you observe them a few times per year, you meet with your
Mhm.
admin, all the things. I never had to evaluate, thank God. I don't want to have to evaluate my
Yeah.
peers. But I've always told them, is it like a 5-minute problem or like a all day problem? Is this going to be something that's derailing? Like it's taking away the psychological safety of the environment. Now we don't feel safe to learn in here. Does it take away from your ability to concentrate? If it's tapping and tapping is like your biggest like thing that derails your thinking process, then okay, address it because you can't do your job with that thing bothering you. But if you can do your job and other kids are ignoring, you can even, I always tell them, if you must address it, you can even just thank the students for ignoring the noise in the room. Thank you guys so much for staying focused, even though it's a little noisy in here. And that's it, right? Just moving on. You don't have to always call out that particular student. And often, I'm a big proponent of like reinforcement style, which is like a little bit of an iteration of love languages and things
Yeah.
like that. But once you learn a student's reinforcement style, which is often either adult approval or peer approval. And you would think it's like consumables and competitive, whatever. It's not usually. It's typically number one peer approval and second adult approval. Manipulate those. You don't
Mhm.
have to always say something to the student. You don't always have to go over there, especially if their secondary reinforcement style is your attention. Do not always give your attention for their misbehavior because now they're going to step it up.
Mhm.
Get the students to recognize the positive or ignore the negative because that's going to kind of toggle their way of trying to manipulate it back to their favor and it's not going to work. So it's always just kind of a game of strategy too, I suppose. But is it a 5-minute problem? Because if it's going to go in 5 minutes, let it go. Why
Mhm.
are you stressing about every single thing? You have enough on your plate, to be a
Yeah.
good teacher. It's the ultimate circus act, right? Like you are
Yeah.
doing all of the stunts all by yourself. You're hosting, you're performing, you're doing everything. Like, cut yourself some slack.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think also like, right, like you got to get through your lesson. And if you're
Yeah.
stopping every time someone does anything, you're never going to get to the lesson.
No.
Now I've been reminded of another issue. And this is one I've been struggling with a little bit again. And I don't know if it's just because I was out of practice or whatever, but how would you help if a teacher comes to you coaching and maybe they have some students that they get in power struggles with about like, so my thoughts are the way to avoid a power struggle is you just got to let the kid get the last word in because they're not going to stop and,
Yeah.
and, and be okay with that. But what are your thoughts on like, if you had a teacher who you saw or they told you they were going back and forth with the kid, what advice would you give for a teacher who keeps getting trapped in power struggles? Like, how do they avoid that? What would
There's
you
a
say to
couple of
them?
strategies. If you're engaged, if you're battling it out with a student who needs to have the last word, yeah, let them have it. But if you like, I always give little nicknames to
Yeah.
students. I had a student, and I've given the same nickname to many students, so they won't know who I'm talking about if they ever heard this podcast. But motor mouth Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and his name's not Mike. But the kid who just has to blah, 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 and like
Mm-hmm.
literally like it's a professional debate platform at this point. And one of my colleagues who's also a friend once told me when I was a brand new teacher that our brains are faster than theirs. Why are we even stepping into their ring? Like we are just inherently faster and smarter than them. So let it go. Like, right? Like don't even, and if you must, gear up and be ready to slay the game. So when I'm in a power struggle with a motor mouth Mike type of kid who's just blah, 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 and they're trying to outwit you, or they're trying to use their intelligence, or they're trying to catch you, they're trying to take your words and twist it into another thing. Short, simple, sweet, direct. I heard you. I heard you the first time. We're done now.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on. Thank you for your feedback. Moving on.
Yeah.
Like that's it. No more. Just short. Thank you for getting back on task, even though they're not back on task.
Yeah.
Like, and you just walk away. That's it.
Yeah.
They have nothing else to engage with because now they want you to give them a blah, 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 blah response
Yeah.
because that's what they're doing to you. They're trying to like create the platform. No, thank you. We're not doing that. And what it communicates to everybody else is I'm going to shut you down. It's, imagine when you've been shut down by people who give you those very short, direct responses. It feels a little humiliating, and
Yeah.
that's not the goal, but that kind of creates that. And so they don't want to keep being shut down. It's a little humiliating. So they'll stop that
Yeah.
internal, like, oh, this does not feel good. They'll stop. And then the minute they're doing the right thing, because they'll start typing, they'll get their pencil out. They'll eventually do it because now they have to sulk and kind of repair their ego a little bit, like
Yeah.
their wound, even though again, this was not like one of those like make the kids feel like complete crap about themselves. But that'll happen. You go back around and you nurture them. Like, thank you so much for doing your notes now. Can I help you with it? With this whatever. Number 3, everybody's struggling with. Can I help you with that? Or you got this? Like, show them grace the minute they're back on task. Like, I'm not holding this against you. I'm letting this go. I just need you to stop. So that's my first thing. But often what I find them getting into power struggles with is their authority. The teacher actually having authority over something, a power struggle over cell phones or AirPods or taking their hoodie off. Like, one thing about me is I'm not going to fight with a kid about a hoodie. I'm not going to fight about like you said, those inconsequential things. Like their head, the thing up. I'll make them show me their ears, like. But there's a lot, especially like students of color. They have things about their hair, and if their hair's not the way they want to present themselves, they're going to hide it.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I won't fight it with a hoodie, but I teach teachers, like, first of all, how important is this to you? If it's a cell phone, headphones, talking to their neighbor, whatever, like it's affecting your ability to teach or manage the classroom, definitely deal with it. And if you see that they don't just respond to the redirect right away and you have to come back around that second time, offer choices. I mean, like cell phones are a big one because these kids act like it's a part of their body. You're asking them to cut off a limb. And so, and I don't, our district's doing yonder pouches. And I'm going to just say epic fail, not working,
Really?
epic fail. And I knew that was going to happen, but doing my strategy with cell phones, never had an issue with cell phones. So anyways, I will tell them like, hey, just like generic, because you don't want to get in a power struggle right off the bat. You already know your students, right? Like, hey, everybody, just a reminder, cell phones and all devices need to be tucked away. Please put them in your backpack, out of sight, out of mind. Boom, you see everybody on there doing their thing. Even kids that you didn't even know had their damn headphones in are taking their headphones out.
Yeah.
So that's a perfect, like, I saw, Johnny doing it, but I'm going to just let everybody know instead of calling out Johnny, because I know the minute I say something to Johnny, it's going to be an eruption. So everybody gets it. But Johnny, you already know, isn't going to follow that direction. But now, 5 minutes later, you're going to give him some time. You're going to come over very quietly and be like, hey, I need you to put your cell phone in your backpack, or it's going to have to go on my desk, and I'm going to follow the school policy, which is send it to the office. Your parent can come get it today. And then Johnny's going to give you a vibe right away. You're going to know, do I stand here and battle this out with Johnny, or do I walk away and just say, you can go put it on my desk, I'll come back around, or you can go put it back on my desk. I'll
Hmm.
be back in 2 minutes. Set a timer, coming back in 2 minutes. And usually they'll either get up and put it on your desk, but not anymore. I feel like 5 years ago, they would have done that. Pre-pandemic, they would have done that. Now it's more when I come back around in 2 minutes, I'm like, okay, you need your cell phone. I'll send it to the office, whatever. And I usually call the parent right then and there. Hey, I had to take Johnny's phone. He was on his phone during instructional time. It's going to be in the office just in case you try to call him today. I just want to let you know.
Yeah.
It's not lost or stolen. It's in the office. Thank you for your time. Goodbye. And it's
Yeah.
not like he's a bad kid. Just
No.
FYI, if you try to reach your student, the phone's gonna be in the office. And I'll call before Johnny's even given me the cell phone. Like, I'll do that really quick. So your mom already thinks I have it. So then they give it over. Now I've had a couple of explosions where like an ED student that I didn't know way back in the beginning of my career blew a gasket. Like everything exploded. I was a fucking bitch and da-da-da. And I was like, but I was just following through on the exact same policy I was doing it with everybody else. So offering choices in that instance did help it not get so bad. It still got bad though, because ED is ED.
Yeah.
So I always tell them, avoid the power struggle with either giving multiple choices, and not too many, 2 choices that you're going to
Yeah.
stand firm on that you can uphold without having to call for backup. Because the minute you call for backup, they're only going to listen to that person now, not you. Or do that very generic, I know this kid's going to try to trap me in a power struggle, so I'm going to just tell everybody so they don't think I'm
Yeah.
targeting them. And then,
Yeah, there's
short
a
and
lot of
sweet.
that.
Don't let Motor Mouth Mike take over. Motor Mouth
No.
Mike's good at talking.
So you mentioned, and you said, I agree with you. You said they're not a bad kid, and I actually remember I have this book called No Bad Kids, and so I want to transition to that a little bit when we talk about classroom management. This is coming up. My theory, and I think you agree with me, is that like all behavior is communication, and that misbehavior is sort of just communicating an unmet need, right? Like I like to say, why do babies cry? And like
Yeah.
babies cry because they can't tell you what they want, and so it's like, why does a 14-year-old kid act out? because they don't have the emotional maturity to explain to you that they're
Mhm.
feeling their girlfriend broke up with them and now they're taking it on you or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and so unmet needs. Yeah, I guess I just wanted to see what, or I have a, tell me what you think about this. I like to say this a lot too, that kids would rather look bad than dumb. What are your
Oh,
thoughts
for
there?
sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And a lot of educators that I've witnessed that are maybe 10 to 15 years deeper in their career than me use the public shaming, making them feel dumb as a classroom management strategy. And listen, I'm all about bantering and being sarcastic and silly with students, but you have to have a relationship first. You
Hmm.
cannot go making fun of kids that don't like you. Because they're not
Yeah,
gonna vibe with that. But it goes back to because I'll kinda dig one a little deeper on that. Yes, behavior is a form of communication, and it is always an unmet need, but also their behavior is the only thing they have control over.
yeah,
Our children are one of the most oppressed demographics in the world. They don't
for sure.
have hardly any autonomy. They have 0 voice in anything that happens to them. The only thing that they can control, and I don't think they've even connected this. Well, I know they haven't connected this, but the only thing they have complete and utter control over is how they behave, right? And so the ones that have had more trauma, more adversity, more things happen to them that just felt very helpless for them, where they felt very hopeless or helpless, they're going to react a lot stronger than the kids who do have solid authority and structure at home or in their personal lives or have had continuity of solid teachers. So, yes, I agree. Behavior is a form of communication. So, don't take it personal. Try to figure
Yeah.
out what they're trying to communicate with you. But even more, just as us as adults, classroom management is a skill, regulating your emotions is a skill, and
Hmm.
they don't know how to do that. And if you
No.
as a teacher don't know how to do that either, we're creating more conflict.
Yeah, for sure. All right. I am interested because we're talking so much about what we've learned about classroom management, and we had
Mhm.
to probably learn this the hard way. I don't know about you, but I had to learn it the hard way. Would you mind sharing with us maybe your most chaotic memory from the classroom as you think back, like a day where it all just kind of went to crap? And then the follow up is, what did you learn from it? How were you like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna make sure that never happens again? Is there
I'll
something that sticks
say
out?
yeah, there's 2 things that really stick out. One from my very first year teaching, and I do wanna say, like, as a CTE teacher, I had no teacher mentor, I had nobody checking in on me.
Hmm.
I was just starting a program for a designated subjects credential to learn how to be a teacher. So I had never had even less support than a first year teacher out of a program gets, okay? And I didn't even know how to lesson plan. I didn't even know where to put grades. So there was just so much going on. But there's 2 instances that occurred, and they're very similar in that I stepped on the trigger and it could have been me. I needed to do something different, and that's what I took away from it. But
Hmm.
both of them landed me in the assistant principal's office, essentially trying to justify my actions. Not even justify, but just sort of explain why I did what I did. So the first one was my very first year teaching, and I was very permissive. Going in with the mindset of, I'm going to help the kids and I want to be the adult that I needed when I was a kid, pushed me too far into that, like, I need to be their friend mode. And I didn't know how to hold boundaries because I was afraid they wouldn't like me. And kids don't learn from people they don't like. And so I
Hmm.
had just bought into this too deep of that belief system. And I only had like 6 students in my first period class because it was a block period. So it was first and second period for culinary two. And we ran a restaurant. And the teachers would order food and the kids would deliver it. Well, I had not really even understood the system and I was still developing it. I want to say we were in our first quarter of the school year when this happened. And they're just asking me, can I take this to so and so? Can I? And of course, there's the buddy system. So they all want to go with one another. And I turn around and I'm cooking the food and all of my students are gone. And I'm like, where the hell did they go? Where are all these kids? Because they're at the time I was Mrs. Aguayo. So they're like, Miss Aguayo, can we go here? Can we go? And I'm like, sure, sure. Yeah, that's fine. And I turn around, nobody's there. And so I'm watching the time, 15 minutes goes by, 20 minutes goes by. And this, again, it's a 2-hour block, but still, I'm like, so they show up and I'm mad. I'm heated. And I'm like, where the hell were you guys? You've been gone for 35 minutes. I don't remember. It was 35, but it was a
Yeah.
long time. This is my credential. This is my job. You can't just be roaming campus doing your own thing, blah, 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 blah. Hindsight, I freaked out. They're obviously safe on the campus. And if they
Yeah.
were getting into trouble, I would have been called.
Yeah.
I didn't know that at the time. So I lost my crap on them. And one of the girls had a temper and she lost her crap right on back to me. She said, well, you let us go and you blah, blah, blah. And if you did it, and like just had all of a sudden the students become an expert on quality teaching. And you should have done this and you should have done that and blah, blah, blah. And, reading me the riot act. And I was like, get out. If you're going to yell at me like this, get out. And I hardly ever, I want to say my entire career, I've hardly ever sent students out. I'd send them outside the door and then I would go talk to them.
Hmm.
But her, I was like, go to the office. I'm not dealing. You do not yell at
Wow.
me. But
Yeah.
I was just yelling at her. Like I wasn't connecting that. So, anyways, her mom ended up calling the principal and was like, Miss, your teacher just yelled at my daughter and this and that and the other and blah, 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 blah. And then emailed me to also, as an expert in education, told me how I should do my job better. And really I should have done my job better, but not in the ways that they were suggesting. In the, like, I shouldn't have said yes so much. I should have
Yeah.
had a system. I should have not run the cafe until I knew how I wanted to do it. Like, there's so much I should have slowed down on. So it really took that. A lesson I took from that was build your system before you launch. Second, be clear on your expectations so you don't always have to be yes or no while you're in the
Hmm.
middle of something. It kind of reminds me of when I was a kid. I used to ask my mom if I could go to a friend's house while she was on the phone because she would just say yes. Get out of here. Yeah, 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 yeah. But she was distracted just as I was
Right.
distracted in that class. So again, that was something else I learned. But it trickled into my second year where that ED student flipped his lid over the cell phone. And my lesson there was remember who your students are on IEPs and
Yeah.
why they have an IEP.
Yeah.
Not always just a learning disorder. You like I just assumed IEP learning because that's what I saw, right? I
Right.
saw that he was struggling with reading and writing. I didn't read the emotional disturbance, and of course, if I had read it, I wouldn't have known what that meant in my second year. I would have needed to look that up. So that's something I teach my clients, read the damn IEP. Here's a form. How do you keep track of what all these things mean? Here's how you look it up. But
Yeah.
yeah, those were some pretty hard lessons. It was a hard battle on my ego because, I wanted to help the kids and here these kids are mad at me. That whole first year, that first period class hated me.
Wow.
Hated me.
That's tough.
It,
It's funny while you're talking, you reminded me about like knowing your students. I had a student with ODD at
mm-hmm.
and when I was in California, and I had never had a student with ODD before, like diagnosed. And this is what they got mad at me about the first week of school is I was wearing they were seniors, and I was wearing last year's senior shirt, and they thought it was disrespectful because those kids were gone, and they were mad at
Huh?
me about it. Like, and that was the trigger. That was the trigger.
Wow.
Like, how dare you wear
How dare
last
you
year's shirt?
represent them?
Eventually, we like that student and I came to become very close, and like things
Yeah.
got better. But like initially, it was like this guy is a jerk, and like so, yeah, you got to know your students, read about them.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get into two more things. One of them is let's just get into you right now. If someone's listening to this podcast and they're like, oh man, this Mrs. Parks knows what she's talking about. What do you, I know you have like some courses and stuff out there. And so I just
Mhm.
kind of want to like give you a platform to tell us about you and where people can find those things and
Oh,
what's out
thanks.
there.
Well, I have basically 3 containers that somebody could work with me in, and it's kind of varying based on the different iterations of me as an educator. So I've created everything from the heart space of what did I need and what would have helped me be better because my heart was in the right place, right? Like everything I was doing, my heart was there. I was there for the kids and nobody was going to convince me otherwise, even when they hated me. So I have what's called my Besties membership, my Behavior Besties membership, which is just some tools I've created over the years that help me either provide some just immediate tier 1 consequences because I have to move them, they have to do a separate activity, or tracking systems like for 504s and IEPs.
Mm-hmm.
Some ways to keep yourself accountable and hold students accountable in that they're like refusing to do assignments. So here's a assignment refusal form, student-led conference forms, just like really cool resources that I've created that I know helped me stay consistent and the whole make sure that the kids know this is about you, not about me. Your grade is not the grade I've given you. It's the grade you've earned by what you have or have not done. And here's how we keep you on track for
Yeah.
that. And so there's that, but there's also all of my masterclass replays. Any type of live training I've recorded, I've plugged into there. So there's a bank of that. And then I have a Telegram space where I offer like one-on-one coaching. So if they have a question like, oh, today a kid flipped his lid because I told him to put his cell phone away and he flipped a desk and called me a fucking bitch. I'm like, oh yeah, let me tell you about how I handled that. So
Only once?
the only one. No.
No.
Like I've gotten really good about my zingers. This is kind of side note. Like I just last year, no, hold on. It was 2 years ago in detention. I just reshared this video on TikTok about a student in my detention calling me a fucking bitch because I was insisting that he is not on his cell phone in
Yeah.
detention. which is a fair expectation. And so I was like, and I just got real close to him and I was like, I have been called worse by people I thought loved me. Nothing you say hurts my
Wow.
feelings.
Yeah.
Please put your phone in the bucket. I'll give you a few more minutes. I
Yeah.
walked away like, no, sir. So I've gotten really good at my zingers, not like to be a jerk, but if you're going to call me a bitch, then we're going to go low.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to meet you where you're at. But so I have my Behavior Besties membership. I have a course that's a self-paced course. There's 5 mini PD models about like creating your structure. There's some reflection pieces in there for teachers that's kind of helping them see like, what am I doing? What am I not doing? There's some goals in there. Let's try this week. I've also plugged in like my back to school resources and just I kind of dump extra like classroom resource videos or activities in there because anybody who is willing enough to pay for a course, I want it to be like robust. I want it to be
Yeah.
something that's just like a little library. They can go in there and this is all the things I need for my foundation. And then I have my higher touch point, which is my group coaching. And we meet once per month and we go over whatever anybody's going through. It's like one-on-one coaching. They each have their own thread in Telegram. And so we're constantly communicating. I want to do that trend on TikTok where it's like you're in all these places, like you're on vacation, you're at the grocery store, you're swimming in the pool with your kids, like you're doing all these things and you're on your phone real quick and then you put it down, then you're on your phone real quick and put it down. And it's like me helping my clients because I love them so much or whatever. It's like this like cute little trend. And that is literally me. Like my clients message me and I was at a wedding last night, like, oh, let me just real quick tell her, help her out with this. So that's a higher touch point. And then I've offered other things for like other areas of need. I've explored some kind of like admin support stuff, but I don't know if I really want to lean into that yet. I know the teachers need the help. Admin needs the help too, but I wouldn't say I'm the expert in that. I just know a thing or two that I've been doing. And I think I might just continue to share that on social media and not necessarily create a container for that. But yeah, and then they can always follow me. I give a lot of free advice. My captions are usually where it's at right now. I have a lot less time to film talking heads with my 2 programs where like I'm giving advice in my video. So it'll be like a B-roll and then my caption gives the tips and the pointers. And I give a lot of freebies. This summer I'm going to be hosting some PDs for teachers that are struggling with that self-reflection piece, the how do I lay down my foundation? How do I even create a structure in this classroom so that I don't have to always be the one making the decisions?
Yeah, for sure. And I before we move on, what I heard from all of that, what I'm taking from that, and what I hope I because I know you agree with me here, and I want any teacher listening who might be feeling down themselves for both of us to just let them know, like, if you love students, if you love children, classroom management is a skill. You don't need to give up on your dreams because you're not where you need to be with this skill. It can get
Absolutely.
better. Yeah.
It can and it will get better. I'm watching my clients in real time. I just told one of my clients a couple weeks ago, like, girl, you're not even going to need me anymore. Like,
Yeah.
that's the point of the game. You come, you work with me, and my whole goal is to release you back into the wild. I'm not trying to keep you here forever.
Yeah.
Because there are so many really amazing adults who genuinely care so much about children and they're not getting the support they need from their sites. And I
Yeah.
get it because I work at a site that is exactly struggling with that. There's 3 teachers on my campus that I know I can help. But am I over there self-promoting and being like, "Hey, let me come join
Yeah.
my program?" No, I'm not. That's a conflict of interest, honestly, but they need to be able to see that they need the help before you
Yeah.
can give them the help. So I drop little seeds when I can and hope that they'll pick it up or that they'll eventually recognize like, oh, Nicole might have some help for them. But I would not be able to help them in my 9 to 5. I would not be able to
Right.
help them in the school day because I have a whole separate job that I'm doing. This all this extra support unfortunately comes at a cost of having to do it after hours, right? Unless your school district, which there are unicorn school districts out there that provide coaches that will go into the classroom and be there often, multiple times per week, coaching educators. But like I said, that is a unicorn school that is not happening globally. I've coached people from Egypt. I had a lady from Netherlands. Like I have this is a global thing. This is not just California. This is not just America. This is everywhere. So yeah, they're not getting the support they need. It is not their fault. The programs, even the teacher credential programs, think about who's teaching that. Educators who have not been in the classroom in probably 20 years. They might know some
Yeah.
things because they go to a conference or a training that tells them some things, but they don't see it in real time. They're not going in those classrooms and evaluating the teachers either. So they're a little out of touch as well. This is that middle ground, the bridge from I went to teacher school, I got a teaching credential, now I'm in the classroom and these kids are batshit crazy. How do you help me
Yeah.
in this zone?
Yeah.
Here's how I can help you.
And I'm just going to throw out there about college too. I don't know if this was your experience, but like Well, I guess you had your CT, so you went through a different pathway, but
I
like
did
so
2
many
credentials. Yeah, I did a special education master's credential and then my designated subjects.
That's yeah, and I think you probably had a better experience than I did because when I went through undergrad, so many of my undergrad professors had only been in the classroom for like 2 or 3 years before they were like, "I'm gonna go teach people how to teach." And like once you've been teaching a while, you're like, you don't know anything after 2 years. Like, or
Mm,
they'll be like, "This is what I did," and like you have to find a system that you can do for like 10 years. Like
mhm,
anyone can do anything if you're only like when I worked with TFA teachers. Do you have TFA teachers at your school
mm-mm,
ever? But you know what they
no.
are, right? Teach for America. They do like a
Yeah,
2-year program. So
yeah,
like they do like 2-year thing and like they'll get in there and they're like, and they'll be told, do this. And it's like anyone can do anything for like 1 or 2 years and burn out and be done. But
yep.
like when you need something that you're going to do for 20 years, like you need a different system. But
Right.
anyways, speaking of that, takes us to our last question. Nicole, new teacher comes to your school. She comes in, he comes in, and they come in and they say, Nicole or Mrs. Parks, I don't know. I'm nervous about my first day, my first year. What advice would you give them to help them make sure that first year sucks a little less?
There's a couple of things. The first thing I would tell them is it's not gonna be that bad. It's gonna be rough, but it's not gonna be that bad, as long as you're willing to self-reflect. So
Hmm.
the thing I always bring back to any new teachers who's asking me for advice, I always tell them, "I need you to reflect." When I'm talking to them about lesson planning, like, when you're doing your lesson plan, I want you to get in the habit of journaling at the end of the week on how that week went on each of those lessons. This was really great. This sucked. I'm never doing that again. Or this student brought up a really good point about this thing. Like, just journal 5 minutes, set a timer, do that during your prep on a Friday. And then that way, next year, you pull that lesson planner book out and you have your guide for the following year. For the teachers that are fortunate enough to keep teaching the same content. But the activities, if you whatever, you can always plug and play different activities in terms of like lesson for that activity. But that's the first thing. Self-reflect, create really solid systems. Second thing, schedule your mental health days right now. Schedule them right now. I'm going to tell you that you're going to care in November, you're going to care in January, and you're going to care right around spring break. Schedule them right now. There's sick time. Don't put them in yet.
Yeah.
Put an alert in your phone the day before to remind yourself to put in Frontline or whatever your sub program is, and have that lesson plan in your Google Drive before the school year starts. Have them ready, locked and loaded. You're going to need them. Don't ask questions. Go do something fun.
Yeah.
Don't go do acts of service for nobody. Go do whatever makes you feel better. If that's bed rotting and watching soap operas in your bed, I don't know who still does that, but if that's what you're going to do, then do that. And then the last thing is emotional regulation. Find somebody. I recommend somebody on Instagram that I love, but I'll say go learn about emotional regulation and learn who you are and how to regulate your emotions so that it's not trickling into your students because they're going to trigger the shit out of you.
I
It's
love
like
that.
self. What is it?
Yeah.
One of my friends called teaching is like the deepest internal like therapy that you could ever get. Like
Yeah.
minus being an entrepreneur, your students are going to be a mirror to you, and all the things that you've unhealed that you have not yet healed are going to
Hmm.
come out, and it is your responsibility to heal it and not project it back onto those kids.
That is deep, and it makes me think of I won't mention it here because for people's for privacy, but it makes me think of some teachers I've worked with who I'm like, wow,
Mhm.
maybe that's why they were struggling because of that
Yeah.
reflection, that mirror piece, and that's kind of.
Hmm.
I will say, I
Yeah.
also love that you said mental health days because, as I say in the book, there's no trophy given out to anyone who doesn't use their days. Not only is there no trophy, most schools don't even pay you for them anymore.
Yeah.
Anyone getting into
No.
teaching, in the old days, you'd get paid out for your sick days you didn't take.
Yeah. Ours build up. And then when you retire, you have to use them all. They're
Yeah,
not paying you out. I
yeah,
think they might pay out a percentage.
yeah,
Yeah. And this is the other thing I'll add to that. For people who do get recognition, look at the bags under their eyes.
yeah,
The people who get teacher of the year, I've been on the receiving end of all this like accolades. First of
yeah,
all, you're now an enemy.
yeah,
Everybody's mad at you. That you didn't get shit. You got an award and that is about it. Now you just lost street cred with all your colleagues.
yeah.
You have bags so big underneath your eyes, people think you're literally sick. So yeah, don't work yourself to the ground for a system that is not built to support you in every way possible. So be there for your children because you're here because you love kids. There's
Yeah.
not like there are some educators who are in education for the wrong reasons. We know who they are. We're not talking to them. We're talking to the people who are here for the right reasons. You are here because somebody fed you really great inspiration. Somebody told you that you would be a great teacher. Something in your gut called you to this profession. You're here for the right reasons. Now it is your responsibility to protect that. And it looks like taking the mental health days, scheduling
Yeah.
them, making it a habit, making sure that whatever is happening in your classroom feels safe for you too. It is your classroom. I tell students, this is my home. I'm here more than I am at home sometimes. You're not going to come in here and create hostility in my home, not in my
Yeah.
house, you know? And then it also becomes our house. This is our house. You're not acting like that in our house.
Yeah.
So, yeah, nurture yourself. And I know people get so sick of hearing the like, what's your why? But that is it, right? That's
Yeah.
your why. Now fucking protect it.
Yeah.
Don't let somebody corrupt it. Don't let these burnt out, crotchety old ass teachers who needed to retire 10 years ago tell you something. They might have a couple of good pointers, but that is about it.
Yeah.
Ignore the rest.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. That's great. I love all of that.
This fuels my passion. I love talking about classroom management. I
Me
love
too.
talking about kids. I love it.
I'm
So much so
I'm
I'm going down this freaking dissertation. Like it was a good idea, now I'm in it. And I'm like, oh God, this is tough.
I'm a pedagogy nerd.
Oh,
Like
I love that.
I love to learn
Yeah.
about like different ways the brain ticks. Well, this has been the Suck Less Tomorrow podcast. I'm your host, Carlton. You can find us wherever you get your podcast. The book is Suck Less in the Classroom Tomorrow from Routledge, Eye on Education. Nicole, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a blast. I appreciate you.
Don't forget to like and share. Please subscribe or follow. Help spread the